Welcome to the February 5th, 2018 Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Roll call, please. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Thank you. Mrs. Bradford, will you please lead us in the flag salute? And if you would please remain standing afterwards for a moment of silence. Okay, if you would please remain standing. We have 3 moments of silence this evening. The first is for Cisco Galvez, the second grade student at Camino Real who passed away on January 4th. The board would like to express their condolences to the Vidania Galvez family and Camino Real elementary students and staff. Second one is for Mrs. Joanne Greeley, a retired teacher who passed away on January 7th. And the board would also like to express their condolences to the Greeley family and JUSD staff. And the last one is for Ms. Tui Trong, a retired teacher who passed away on January 24th. The board would also like to express their condolences to her family and JUSD staff. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, Ms. Ortega, will you please lead us in the inspirational comment?
My pleasure. And this quote is from one of my favorite movies. It's The Pursuit of Happiness, and it's Will Smith with his son. They did both roles as the father and as the son in this movie, and it's wonderful. And it says, "Don't ever let someone tell you that you can't do something. Not even me. You got a dream, you go protect it. You gotta protect it. When people can't do something themselves, they are gonna tell you that you can't do it. You want something, you go get it, period." Will Smith, Pursuit of Happiness.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Next on to reports from closed session. Ms. Elzig.
Thank you. The board voted with a vote of 4-0 with trustee Mendez absent to issue a March 15th notice to certificated employee number 275697. In a vote of 4-0, the board also voted to accept the resignation of certificated employee number 272373, and the board voted with a 4-0 vote to accept the resignation of certificated employee number 263800. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Elzig. Mr. Dabrowski.
By a vote of 4-0, the board voted to approve a settlement agreement regarding OAH case number 2017-120353 in a special education dispute, resolving all issues in the dispute.
Thank you. Next on item 1, welcome 2017-2018 student board members. Mr. DeShawn.
Thank you, President Garcia. Well, gentlemen, tonight I think we'll mix up the order, although we can't mix it up too much. So, Hyle, would you like to start and tell us about Rubidoux, please?
Good evening, board. There are a lot of exciting things going on for Rubidoux students. Last week we had decorations in the quad to celebrate the Chinese New Year, which is the year of the dog, I believe. The students also learned to play Chinese jump rope. Tomorrow we will have a tribal African dance group perform in the quad to kick off our celebration of Black History Month. This Wednesday is Falcon Pride Day, where 8th graders from Mission Middle School come to our campus and learn what Falcon Pride is about. The following day is Best of Rubidoux, where we show all incoming students and parents the clubs and sports Rubidoux has to offer. It starts at 6 p.m. Next Tuesday is our 3rd blood drive of the year, and we are hoping to get over 125 donations. Going on in Falcon Sports, Boys basketball will make the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. And our boys soccer will also be in the playoffs. Girls soccer and girls water polo are currently in the hunt for playoff spots. Wrestling had 5 girls and 5 boys make CIF, with the girls having their tournament this past weekend and their boys having theirs this coming week. Spring sports are beginning practices and preseason games will soon follow. This concludes my report.
Thank you. And Austin, would you like to tell us about Patriot High School? And I just want to also say before you start how much we appreciate all of our student board members. You provide a direct link to our schools, and it's great that you're here and critical that you're here. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I guess we'll jump right into things. On January 26th was our winter rally, Light Up the Night, and it was a success. We managed to black out all the lights entering the gym to pull off a true glow-in-the-dark setting, and it was amazing to look at. Following the day of the rally was our winter ball. It was hosted at the National Orange Show in San Bernardino and was a hit. We had multiple photo booths as well as catering and even an artist who sketched portraits for attendees. This was also the night that we crowned our winter ball princes, princesses, king, and queen. All in all, nearly 650 students came and had a blast. Last week on Wednesday, we hosted our winter blood drive, where students and staff both came to donate blood to Livestream. A big thanks to those who participated. The contingent from Korea we hosted has left, and it has been a wonderful experience for both them and our students to have them on campus. Thank you to those who set that in motion. This is the final week of our winter sports regular season. CIF will begin next week, although the date and time are to be decided this weekend. Congratulations to most of our winter sports for qualifying for CIF. Tomorrow will be our Ultimate Warrior Assembly, where students who have no truancies, D's, or F's will join ASB in the theater for a wonderful breakfast among other festivities. Congrats to those Ultimate Warriors. This week, from Wednesday to Friday, Patriot High School is also excited to host the District Science Fair. Finally, this week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as well, our Commitment to Graduate program is commencing. Wednesday, our freshmen will be joining our Link Crew program to listen to a wonderful speaker. Thursday, our freshmen will be formally committing to graduate, receiving a C2G shirt, and signing a banner that will follow them all the way through to their graduation. Friday, the entire school will be participating in C2G by wearing their year's shirt. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, gentlemen. On to item 2, recognition. First one, 2A, recognize ATDLE's Teacher of the Year. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. And Mrs. Lopez is here tonight. Can you come up and join us up at the front while we say great things about you? So ATDLE, the Association of Two-Way and Dual Language Education, recognizes educators who have made significant contributions to their communities in teaching and promoting bilingualism and biliteracy. They're honored for their excellence, dedication, and advocacy for two-way dual language programs. Patricia Lopez, Sunny Slope Elementary School teacher, has been named the 2018 Two-Way Bilingual Immersion Teacher of the Year and was honored at the 26th National Two-Way Conference in Long Beach on February 3rd. And I had the opportunity to be there along with Mr. Garcia, Ms. Gomez, Mrs. Alvarez, and I was surprised by what a big deal this was. I didn't expect to see over 1,000 people there representing like most of the states of the Union and Costa Rica, Mexico, Spain, and they were all there for this luncheon to honor the one Teacher of the Year, which was Mrs. Lopez. Yeah. I'm almost done. Mrs. Lopez has been an ambassador for the program since its beginning some 11 years ago. She was there from the start when it was just 2 classrooms at Sunny Slope Elementary, and now that it's over 800 students in 5 different schools in our district, she is still there providing a wonderful foundation for our kids. So she's a treasure, and we were very proud of her, and I think she has a couple of words she might share with the board as well.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am humbled and honored to receive this recognition. This award highlights for me how blessed I am to work for Jurupa High School District. I feel proud to represent a district that provides our students with the opportunity to learn a second language while keeping, growing, and improving their own language. Everyone has been awesome during these 11 years, and I'm sure prior to that, in the plannings of it. Jurupa has a strong, vibrant, and growing dual language program. And all this could not happen without the vision, hard work, dedication, support, and passion from one department, Language Services. Marta Gomez, Iracema Guzman, Esther Askew, and Josefina Gomez have worked so hard, and they work so hard every day to provide services to our families. They are and have been the superhéroes, superheroes behind the scenes. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for this honor and blessing. I feel so proud to be part of all of you. Un abrazo fuerte y un beso. Gracias.
Thank you, Mrs. Lopez. And if I'd like to ask that you stick around for a little bit until board member comments. I think that way the board members can properly thank you and have some words. So just a few more minutes.
And may I add a short comment?
Yes, sir.
Well, Mrs. Lopez was actually, I think, the kindergarten teacher in the first dual immersion program. And really, so much of the success began there. And had it not been for just your wonderful teaching and the early years of the program that continued it to 3 elementary schools, now a middle school and a high school, and it is just a program we are so proud of. But I want to say that when one walks into Mrs. Lopez's class, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful place to be. They could not have picked a better, more caring, more effective, and more loving teachers. So we are so, so proud of you, and we're blessed to have you in the district. So thank you.
Okay, item 2B, recognize Jose Campos, Director of Parent Involvement and Community Outreach. Mr. Dabrowski.
All right, we were joking that this is becoming a standing item for the next recognition that Mr. Campos gets, but is he here tonight? I don't think he is. All right. So LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, is an organization that advances the economic condition, educational attainment, political influence, housing, health, and civil rights of Hispanic Americans through community-based programs. The Department of Parent Involvement and Community Outreach organize workshops educating parents on rights and pathways to citizenship, DACA, the impact of immigration laws, and support for students. As a result of this, several employee family members have become citizens or applied for citizenship. Several of our students were able to renew their DACA at no cost, and support was provided to students and families, allowing students to refocus on academics. Jose Campos, Director of Parent Involvement and Community Outreach, was recognized by LULAC for the valuable time and services he has provided to the Jurupa community.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski. Item 2C, recognize receipt of grant supporting inclusive practices. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The CDE recently notified us that funding for the 17-18 Supporting Inclusive Practices program has been awarded in the amount of $12,000.
Thank you. Item 2D, recognize receipt of grant, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Title II, Adult Education and Family Literacy Act. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The State Department recently notified us that the WIA grant has been awarded again in the amount of $107,381.
Okay, Mrs. Jard.
Mr. Dabrowski, I have a question about these. I see that they're both dated July 1st and they're good for this school year. Do we already get the money ahead of time and we just get these letters as, okay.
The notification comes later, but we've already received the money.
Okay, all right. They're just a little slow up there. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. On to board member comments. Start with you, Ms. Ortega.
So there's a exciting stuff going on. And first and foremost, I want to congratulate all the recognized tonight, especially Mrs. Lopez. We had the CABE meeting this past week, and it was really nice. It was actually my first as a board member CABE meeting, and it hit home for me because my mom was very active in our district with 7 little ducklings of my siblings, and that was, her support system, CABE meetings, PTA meetings. And I know that your husband is not on the agenda, but I would also like to highlight and recognize all the wonderful things Mr. Lopez has done. So we have a power couple in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. When I graduated from Rubidoux High School, I went on to my first internship, which was the DA's office, and I was just so scared. And one of the first people not scared, but very timid. One of the first people that welcomed me was DA Lopez, and we actually went to lunch. I remember vividly, like if it happened yesterday, to the Tamal factory in downtown Riverside, and just to show that. When you care for, I was labeled the at-risk youth back then, and Mr. Lopez, I seen you with my own eyes care for at-risk youth like if they were your own kids. And now some of these kids still, like the Mendoza brothers, have their own business in our local airport, and now they can give back to at-risk youth as well, and just the philanthropical work that we can do when someone just gives us, and like I said in my inspirational comment, believes in us and just says whatever you have in your mind and your heart you can do. So I thank both of you for all the hard work that you have done, and sometimes it's a lot of sacrifice, so I know it's away from your own family and me and my siblings and the at-risk youth that have been touched by the work that you do. I think on behalf of them and myself, I thank you so much. So I think we'll leave the rest for the comments later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Mrs. Bradford.
By sitting in the middle, there are many times that I feel like saying, I mean what she says, I mean what they said. It's hard for me to come up with something original, and I truly mean what Sylvia says. Trustee Ortega. Mrs. Lopez, I wish I had had a Spanish teacher like you. I dual immersion. I had Senora Valverde, and the people that, 45 years later, you will be the person who is remembered by your students. And thank you very much. I hope you get to meet those at the grocery store, and they say what a difference you've made in their lives. And Mr. Lopez, you as well. I was talking to our students a little before the meeting started, and I always am so proud of them showing up and doing things that are extracurricular. It's catching, isn't it? But as I told them, say yes to everything, and so long as it doesn't hurt too badly, that's my motto. And collect business cards and work the room, introduce yourselves to everyone, because the initiative that you show now is so pleasing to us, and we want to help you in every way possible. The way that you show Falcon Pride, the way that you've welcomed students from another country. These are forming the friendships that are going to last you the rest of your lives. You don't realize it now. Maybe you do. I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradford. Mrs. Chard.
I'll make my comments fairly short because, as she said, I agree with both of them. So I won't repeat those. But I do want to thank Jurupa Valley, who's not here tonight. Last week was board member week, school board members week. And they sent us a gift. This was very nice. A treat we can have when we're at the meetings and get hungry, maybe. But it was very nice of them to think of us and to take the time to do something like this, and I feel we need to reciprocate to all of our staff and administration at all of our sites, because they all give us back something, whether it's a gift like this or a rewarding award like Mrs. Lopez has received, that puts us on the map too and shows that we do have great teachers here, great administration, great students. That's the one thing that we're so proud of, is the accomplishments that they do, and our board members, our school board student board members are the ones who bring us that information. And I noticed each week you're adding more things, which is really great, because I like to know more. We don't go there, and so we don't really see what all is going on, or know what all is going on unless we get notified. So if you're ever having anything, please send us an invitation so we can attend them, okay? Thank you. I think that's all that I have, too.
Thank you, Ms. Chard. And I too want to thank both of you for being here, and also from Jurupa Valley. And that's a big commitment, but as my colleagues here said, stay involved and never be afraid to fail and take risks, and that way you grow, and we appreciate everything you do. And as Ms. Chard mentioned here, make sure you let us know, because there's so many things going on in the district that we don't always get a notice. So thank you. Saturday morning, actually I joined the CABE meeting with Trustee Ortega a couple weeks ago, and it was quite a full house there, and it was really nice to see all those folks there. And that was my second CABE meeting ever, and I appreciate everything those folks do. But this past Saturday, I had quite a full day. The first part of my day was over here at the community center, and I see Mr. Santillan is here from Sabrina Cervantes' office. And she came out and spoke to the community, and some of the questions that they had with education. So I was able to talk to some of those folks outside the room and offline, and it was a lot of the concerns they had were college and career readiness for our students, and the trades and welding and those types of things. And so it was great to see that our district's moving in the right direction, and those concerns that she had, I think, were fulfilling today. So thanks again to the district and the personnel here for helping us get those programs going. And then at lunchtime, I had an opportunity to spend with Mrs. Lopez and the rest of the team from Language Services and Mr. Dabrowski. And I remember commenting to Mr. Dabrowski that I didn't realize how big of a deal it really was. I mean, to me, I just thought it was, I don't know, I read everything. I just thought it was Teacher of the Year, maybe Southern California. And next thing you know, we're at the front reserve table, and it's all about Mrs. Lopez. And so I'm so proud that I was able to share that moment with you that day, and look forward to your continued success with DI. And Ms. Gomez had mentioned that at the start we had 40 students, I believe, in that program, and now we got like 800. So program's growing well, and we have a lot of great teachers out there. Congratulations again, Mrs. Lopez. And that's all I have for today. So moving on to item 4, public verbal comments. First one I have here is Mr. Paul Swan-Benlent.
Hello again. My name is Paul Swan-Benlent, president of NEA Jurupa. During this school year, I have been sharing NEA Jurupa's mission to improve working and learning conditions for staff and students with genuine collaboration throughout Jurupa Unified School District's educational decision-making processes. Leadership in the Education Center administration have responded strongly, expressing willingness to share information and offer collaboration in many areas. I have had meetings with Eric Jacqueline, Director of Risk Management, Jay Trujillo, Director of Secondary Education, Rosa Santos Lee, Director of Elementary Education, Dave Dabrowski, Assistant Superintendent of Education Services, in which they shared with me details of how some decisions that affect NEA Jurupa members are being made, why those decisions have been made, how feedback regarding past implementations has been taken into consideration. I feel welcomed into the process, and it was made clear that my input, suggestions, and feedback would be welcomed, taken into consideration, and discussed in a genuine way. Tammy Elzig and I have had honest and open conversations about what genuine collaboration looks like and how to go about genuinely collaborating in the real world. These discussions clearly demonstrate the district's willingness to work together to accomplish NEA Jurupa's mission. Leaders in our association who have worked with district administrators for many years recognize a significant shift in the comfort level and willingness of the district regarding its openness to sharing more information about and access to its decision-making processes, and an increasing level of willingness and openness to increasing opportunities to gather, discuss, and genuinely include our association's input. Our LCAP committee members saw this at our meeting with the district administrators, where we agreed to continue discussing issues of mutual interest in further meetings. We saw this in contract negotiations last year, when the district agreed to include a representative from educational services at monthly meetings between NEA Jurupa and the district. These representatives, especially Dave Dabrowski, have been sharing information regarding current and upcoming implementations of educational decisions and listening to our suggestions. This process has given our association insight into the district's educational decision-making processes and given opportunities for input. I hope the district believes, as we do, that the collaborative implementation of this agreement has been mutually beneficial. We hope this agreement becomes a permanent part of our collective bargaining agreement next year. So, why are NEA Jurupa members holding up signs reading #AskAnEducator? While positive and encouraging progress is being made in conversations among leaders and representatives, it will take a considerable amount of time for these collaborative conversations to lead to genuine collaboration between our membership throughout the district that result in, quote, improved working and learning conditions for staff and students. These signs are a reminder for us, for administrators at sites and district-wide, to ask NEA Jurupa members, the professionals who implement the district's decisions and cope with their consequences at the real-world level, to ask us for our expert opinions before implementing new decisions. We look forward to continuing to work together to learn, develop, and try out new ways to collaborate in order to improve our members' working conditions and maximize the best possible outcomes for the educational, social-emotional, and character development of Jurupa Unified School District students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwan Van Lent. Next card I have here is Ms. Wendy Eccles.
Good evening, President Garcia, trustees, Superintendent Duchamp, Cabinet. Wendy Eccles, I am the Vice President of NEA Jurupa and a teacher at Miraloma Middle School. And I wanted to start by saying thank you to the district for working towards a more collaborative relationship with NEAJ. I understand that over the past couple of decades, education policy has done one thing consistently, and that is change. Moving away from NCLB and the API to the LCAP, ESSA, and the dashboard has been a huge paradigm shift. I know that the district is doing its best to continue to adjust to these changes. As we just heard from Mr. Dabrowski and Mrs. Lopez, our dual immersion language program is truly flourishing and meeting the Prop 58 dual or Global Edge initiative. So I was very happy to hear that. To me, the most important change of all the education policies is the turn towards community schools, where involvement from not all stakeholders is not only encouraged but required. As such, NEAJ is here to share the realities on the ground, as Paul previously mentioned. The members of NEAJ have been candidly sharing their concerns with association leadership for years, and they have been brought to the district. We appreciate you hearing the concerns brought forth, but there are still more that need attention. As you look behind me, again, you saw the Ask an Educator signs. These signs represent but a few of the aforementioned realities on the ground. Increased workload at all sites, little to no autonomy in certain areas, excessive testing, specifically related to the units of study, hours of after-duty grading, lack of support on disciplinary issues, some ineffective PBIS program implementations, a perceived lack of communication, interrupted instructional time. This is just part of the whole. I truly believe, at the end of the day, that the district and the association have the same goal, providing an excellent educational experience for all of Jurupa's students. We hope that as we move forward together to accomplish this goal, that the district not only sees and hears the realities on the ground, but truly listens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eccles. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, administrative reports and written communications. 5A, 2018-2019 Governor's Budget Proposal. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you, and we should have a presentation coming up here in a minute. Okay. It's coming up. Okay. So, as you know, in January each year, the governor releases his proposal for which is called his January budget proposal for the following year, for the 2008, in this case, the 2018-19 year. So tonight, I'd like to highlight just a few components of that proposal. I won't go through the whole 85-page document, but I'll just highlight a few areas of it. So the themes that are in the governor's proposal for K-12 education is around four areas. First of all, accountability. So it's because LCFF has been funded now for 5 years, and we have the dashboard, student achievement really rises to the top of the theme for the budget proposal. In addition, the federal policies are talked about, and concerns about the federal policies are talked about in the proposal, specifically how the tax reform recently passed, enacted, is going to affect California, and also immigration policy and healthcare policy, because as we know, those are still at the federal level, and we don't know what to expect from them at this point. So that will put pressure on California. There also is some major political and legislative challenges in this year, because this is an election year. This is Governor Brown's final state budget proposal. And then also local agencies are going to feel the pressure of local control, because we now will be in a fully funded LCFF environment, and we will go then to COLA only. And so we're going to feel pressure with all the costs that are not in our control and having to deal with those costs. So looking at accountability, again, as I mentioned, 5 years of the LCFF model. So now the focus really shifts to accountability, to looking at the California school dashboard, technical assistance for schools, and there's already some school districts that are receiving that assistance, some schools. The test really has the LCAP improve student achievement? Has it closed that gap? And that's what they're looking for. And so now really begins the time where we have to analyze programs and make program decisions and really look at the results. So some of the local control challenges is during times of economic growth, we've been blessed to be able to add resources and have the resources available to implement new programs. But as we know, during the times where there's an economic slowdown, And in the past, what has happened is we've seen cuts in categorical programs. Well, those categorical programs don't exist any longer. There are programs. There are local programs. So we have to evaluate those and look at those programs. But if there becomes a time for cuts, it'll be our own local programs. And then at full LCFF implementation, which is what the governor is proposing for 1819, we will have to meet the minimum proportionality percentage. So that's our supplemental and concentration funds. And we will have to show that we are spending those funds on services that improve and increase services to students. So looking at the total for the state budget under Prop 98, you'll see in 17-18, $75.2 billion went into K-14 education. And in 2018-19, $78.3 billion. So it is an increase of $3.1 billion. And if you look at it another way, you can see that over the course of, since 2013-14, when LCFF was implemented, we've continued to see increased revenue in Prop 98. And as of 2018-19, that $78.3 million would be full funding of LCFF. So the actual proposal is $3.1 billion to fully fund LCFF, and we strongly believe that this will happen, that the governor will fully fund it. It's something he wants to do. I think it's his legacy before he leaves office. So I think he's going to push very hard to make that happen. And then one-time discretionary funding of $1.8 billion. And we have seen this in the last several years where we've received some one-time funding. This is probably the most volatile of the funding because there's going to be a lot of, the legislation right now have already started talking about how they can get parts of that funding for their programs. So we may see other programs pop up, even we could possibly see other proposals for categorical programs. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. There's also some proposed funding for community college, which would be, the funds would go to the community college, but it would be for the Strong Workforce Program to establish a K-12 component. We currently have the Career Technical Education Incentive Grant, which we're doing quite a bit with that with our CTE programs. That funding is running out, so that that funding will be over at the end of this year. And there's a lot of talk about extending that, but we won't know if that's going to happen. Again, that's one of those things that they're going to look at the legislature, and we'll see that happening over the next couple months. And then we have some, he's proposed some child care and state preschool funding. And then $100 million for the teacher workforce to increase and retain special education teachers. There's definitely been a lot of talk about special education. Most districts like ours that are in declining enrollment actually are seeing an increase in our special education enrollment. So if we look at the target funding factors, you can see that our base grant for all the grade spans, and as you recall, we get a different amount by grade span of funding per pupil. And our base grant will receive a 2.51% COLA. That's what is proposed. So in 2018-19, we will have that increase to the base grant. So turning to what's not in the proposed budget, there's not an increase in the base grant target to reach what we would consider to be the top 10 of states in per pupil funding. California still will rank 46th. So again, if you'll recall, the full funding of LCFF gets us back to our purchasing power that we had in 2007, 2008. So again, we're still ranked 46th in the nation in per pupil funding. It doesn't address the CalSTRS, CalPERS issues which we're facing. And so again, it's assumed that districts will pay for those increases out of their LCFF funding. It doesn't address home to school transportation costs. And there's no COLA that's added to that. So you continue to operate on the original level of funding. And it also doesn't address equalizing the funding rates for special education. So as we know, we get the per pupil funding for special education students as well as our regular education students. And we're well aware that it costs more per pupil to make sure that we're providing the services for our special education students. So if we look at the CalPERS rate increases, you can see in that table that's at the bottom, the actual 2017-2018 is 15.531%, and that is projected to go up to 18.1 in 18-19. These are projections, and CalPERS does come out and give us actuals, later on in the year. So they've been pretty close to the projections so far. In addition, you'll see the CalSTRS rates on the next page, and the CalSTRS rates are in statute, so those actually go up by 1.85% each year. However, they're in law, it says once the statutory rates have been achieved in 2021, then CalSTRS will be able to change those rates. And everything that we're reading about and hearing about now says that more than likely that will happen. So those rates will continue to go up. So what's next? Between February and May, you're going to hear about a lot of proposals, a lot of bills being introduced to fund certain programs or not fund certain programs. And so we'll be watching that closely, to see where that's going to land. You'll hear probably a lot about the one-time money and what else could be done with it. If there's any additional revenues between now and May, you'll hear a lot about what they want to do and proposing to do with those additional revenues. In March, we'll bring a budget update back to the board, and that'll be the second interim report for this year, and then that will have the governor's January proposal built into it, so you can see what that will look like for us in 18-19 and then again in 19-20. And then in May, the governor's May revise will come out, and we will update our budget as quickly as we can, because it's a real quick turnaround when we get that proposal in May. And then in June, we bring the LCAP and the budget to the board for both a public hearing and then for a formal adoption. So overall, we're happy that we're being fully funded, about 2 years ahead of schedule. But the theme is that, kind of being cautionary, because we also know that we have those increased costs that are following us, and we're going into a COLA-only environment. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Ford, for the detailed report. Any questions from the board?
I have a question. Because we're so far down on the list, do we know, as far as money that we spend in education, California is on that far down on the list. Mm-hmm. And I was reading an article the other day that was stating that we have a lot less money to spend on students. Is that because we have more students in the state of California, or is it because other states get so much more money, and if they have so much more money, where are they getting this money that makes such a difference between what we can spend per student or what we get per student to spend than they do?
Really, a lot of this happened with Prop 13, when it's the funding model that states use, and in our case, the majority of our funding comes from the state. So when Prop 13 passed, you know, where the property taxes, when that passed, that basically took the funding from being at the local level for your schools to being at the state level. And so we're really relying on the state income. And if you read some of the information, you'll see that it's personal income tax that's the most volatile, and that's what the state really relies on to fund school districts. And that personal income tax, it's primarily the top 1% of earners in California, and that's 50% of the taxes that are generated.
Okay. And then the other states, and I can't remember the figures, but I'm just going to use a base figure. Okay, they spend $9,000 per student, and we spend $3,000. Where's the difference? Where are they getting their money? Property taxes too? You charge more for property taxes?
Exactly. So I mean, I can point out Illinois because I know that state. Illinois property taxes are assessed every year based on the value of your home, not on what you purchased your home for.
Okay.
So that difference, you know, is, even though it might be the same percentage, it might be a 2% property tax, but it's a 2% property tax on a $400,000 home, not on the $100,000 that you bought it for. So they generate more property taxes that way.
Okay.
But again, you know, that was something that, you know, Prop 13 eliminated that, and they put, you're not able to do that. Your home is only reassessed if it's sold.
So with all the new building in California, why are we not getting more money from the property taxes? Is the state taking it? That's what I meant.
So,
the state
yes.
is keeping it?
So what happens is we get a certain amount of funding, like let's say it's $100 million in LCFF funding,
Okay.
as an example. And locally, our property taxes generate $20 million.
Okay.
So the state gives us 80. They don't give us 100, and then we get the 20. They give us 80,
Okay.
and then we get the 20 from our local property taxes. So the state just offsets
Okay.
what our property taxes are, whereas other states, it works differently, and they get that on top of. So
Okay.
so that's one model. There's many different funding models. There's probably as many different funding models as there are states. So every state funds a little bit differently.
Any other questions? So, Mrs. Ford, I see the, let me see here. So the growing local obligation for CalSTRS and CalPERS, I know we talk about that all the time, and I share with my colleagues through the Friday letter a delegate assembly priority list, and that's included on there. So California State Boards Association, they go through and kind of lobby the state legislature on the education issues, and so that is something they're talking about. But when you see it on paper like this, it's just amazing. What is it, 25%, 26% in 2022 and 23 for the one.
For PERS.
And then CalSTRS, I mean, that's quite a bit that they're asking us to shoulder. And I just wanted to comment that.
Absolutely.
But thank you for the report. Okay,
Thank you.
on to the next item. I think 5B. Review approval of 2017-2018 first interim financial report. Mrs. Ford.
The Riverside County Office of Education has notified the district that the 2017-18 first interim financial report has received a positive certification, and it's been sent on to the California Department of Education. You'll notice that the county report highlights the district's decline in enrollment and operating deficit on the multi-year projection. This projection was based on prior information, so it's not based on the January proposal. So we have to turn in our first interim report the 1st of December, so it's based up until October 31st. And so you will see a difference when you see the second interim report in March. But we are a positive certification on our first interim report.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Ford. No questions? Okay. 5C, Williams Settlement Quarterly Uniform Complaint Report Summary. Mr. Dabrowski.
We had 0 complaints.
You got a question, Mrs. Chart?
No, I just.
Or just give him a thumbs up, okay?
Thumbs up.
Good job. Okay, 5D, announced location for Site and District Teacher of the Year ceremony. Mr. Duchan.
Thank you, President Garcia. March 12th at 6 p.m. at the Stacy De La Rocca Performing Arts Theater at Patriot High School. We will be recognizing our site and our district teachers of the year. It's a wonderful event.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duchan. 5E, the board, maybe you've seen or not, there's a list of the appointments, committees that you've been appointed to. So I know everybody couldn't get everything they wanted. We had to just kind of mix things up a little bit, I think. So that's it for that item. 5F, communications update. Dr. Hanson.
So if you remember, a couple months ago, we briefed the board on the work that took place almost 9 months ago, 10 months ago, where we gathered information from various stakeholders throughout the district and utilized the data and the research to really self-evaluate the district and what we represent. And so there's been a lot of work since that meeting, and we're to the point now where we're ready to launch or roll out or change over into the new look of Jurupa Unified School District. So we plan on launching tomorrow in the morning after briefing you this evening. So there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out that you'll see different as we tomorrow morning. I don't have the, can I borrow the clicker?
No.
Surprise, surprise, Paula's keeping things from so this is an example of the website, what we'll see with the website, the new color scheme, the new logo. There will be a series of articles on the carousel that reflect the new changes. So, why you're going to notice a new look, why there's a Q&A with Superintendent Duchan that talks a little bit about the process and how it came about. We'll also have examples, a story with our medical administrative assistant program that will feature on students that have engaged in that program in terms of college and career readiness. And we'll also have a video, which I'll show you this evening, a promotional video that will roll out. And then we've also, kind of put the information in various locations throughout the website. But more than anything, you're going to open it up and it's going to look different. In addition to that, we are establishing a district newsletter entitled The Horizon, a Bird's Eye View of Jurupa Unified School District. And that will be featured monthly, and we anticipate to have various topics in that newsletter. It'll be a subscription-based newsletter where individuals, and we'll push it out through social media and throughout the community, where they'll be able to subscribe and get that information on a regular basis. Some of the topics that we'll focus on are academics, student success stories, college and career readiness, parental involvement, staff introductions, or getting to know them. So, sometimes when we're at our school site, we tend to know the individuals at our site, but not necessarily throughout the district. So we feel like this would be a good opportunity to highlight various staff, both certificated and classified, so the district gets to know who their colleagues are. Extracurricular activities. We'll also have an opportunity for individuals, including the public, to submit stories of interest that could be featured in the newsletter. There'll be guidelines to that, but it provides a way for others. Sometimes there might be a parent that took their son to a Taekwondo tournament in Las Vegas, and we don't necessarily know about it, and they want to share that with us, and we could incorporate that in the newsletter and highlight successful students. We'll always have a link back to the district initiatives like Measure EE and the LCAP. And then we also are highlighting or putting an area set aside for our community partners. So we've reached out to the city of Jurupa Valley as well as JRPD. And if there's events that are taking place in the city and throughout the community, our newsletter will also have links to some of those events, so that we continue to grow the relationship throughout our community. And so those are the first couple that we've reached out to, and we'll continue to bridge those relationships as well. And then, so that's essentially where we're at. We're ready to roll out. We also are deploying swag bags to all employees throughout the district. You got an example of what those look like. It'll be a drawstring bag. It'll have a folder in it with the new logo, kind of a flyer that talks about the changes and the promise and the pillars, stickers that teachers and staff can put on their computers or whatnot. So that will all be deployed district-wide so that everybody's informed, and then all this information that's going on the website will also be pushed out throughout the district and through social media to the community as well, so they know when they open it up and it looks different, they'll know why. And then finally, we will conclude with the promotional video. We are also doing this in Spanish, and then going back to the newsletter, we're hoping to do that in both languages as well. So I've got to kind of evaluate how I'm going to do that, but we'll figure that part out. We're working on that part.
Beyond what first seems possible is a way to unlock our potential and discover all that awaits us. At Jurupa Unified,
I'm trying to replicate this guy right here.
We create pathways to success in the classroom and beyond by nurturing all learners to become 21st century problem solvers, providing real-world opportunities
3, 2, 1.
that build resilience, critical thinking, creativity. We're a compassionate team of educators who recognize the potential of each child to explore freely and follow their curiosity so they can reach new heights in school, career, and in life.
Thank you, Dr. Hansen.
That's the end of my presentation.
That was beautiful. Any questions, comments?
Hello, Dr. Hansen.
Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the community partners submitting things and personal stories from parents, who's going to administer this page to decide what goes on?
So the subscription or the submission will be like a Google Doc, and that will come to the department, and we'll be able to evaluate. There's going to be criteria in place to make sure that it fits what we want to highlight, and there'll be a caveat in the language that says, not everything will be selected, so we'll make those selections internally, and a lot of it too may be based on, we're putting together a communications calendar for the school year to kind of identify what is taking place throughout the school year. For example, we have the science fair coming up. Maybe in that time span we're focusing on science or in the science fair, and so sometimes those submissions might come in and might be appropriate to the topic or the focus at that particular time. So the short answer is we'll decide internally on what's published. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Dr. Hansen. I know this is you've been waiting for this for a while, and I'm satisfied. Can't wait to see the rollout. And thank you and your team, the rest of the team, for all your hard work. So thank you. Okay, last one, 5G, other administrative reports and written communications. Mr. Deshawn.
I will let the video speak for itself.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, item 1. So 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hold public hearing on initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. As required by law and board policy, the board should conduct a public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa for the 2018-19 school year. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to express its opinion to the board concerning the initial negotiating proposal, which is included in the backup materials. The board president should formally open and close the public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing session on the initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none. The public hearing session is now formally closed. Item 2, hold public hearing on initial bargaining proposal to NEA Jurupa. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. Also, as required by law and board policy, the board should conduct a public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal to NEA Jurupa for the 18-19 school year. Purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to express its opinion to the board concerning the initial negotiating proposal, which is included in the backup materials. The board president should formally open and close the public hearing on the proposal.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing session on the initial bargaining proposal to NEA Jurupa. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none. This public hearing session is now formally closed. Thank you. On to the action session. Item A, adopt, approve routine action items by consent. If I could ask the board, will you please refresh your iPads? Did I get a motion out there?
Yes, so moved.
Motion by Ms. Ortega. Second by Mrs. Bradford. Any questions or comments? Okay, well, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 4-0. Item B, award contracts for K-8 school number 5, Del Sol Academy furniture procurement. Dr. Hanson.
Thank you. Before I get into this item, I wanted to thank, I failed to thank Mr. Lewis and his staff. They worked tirelessly on making those changes to the website and the technology that had to, all those changes that had to take place. So I appreciate him and his department. So this item here, we're to the point now where it's time to order furniture for Del Sol. And so we bring this item to you at this time. This is a piggyback bid from Hawthorne School District, not to exceed $1.1 million. And part of this item is to provide Director Jeff Lewis, Director of Centralized Support Services, the authority to find alternative vendors in the event that Culver Newland can't meet the timelines needed at this time. But administration recommends this evening that the board approve contracts with Culver Newland in an amount not to exceed $1.1 million, and to give the Director of Centralized Support Services authority to change vendors if necessary.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Chard.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bradford.
Yes.
Okay, any questions or comments? I just wanted to comment, Dr. Hanson, you really don't realize until you actually going to furnish the school how much it's going to cost. There's a lot of furniture that's got to go in that school. I mean, Ms. Ortega and I had an opportunity to tour it with you, and that school is pretty huge. So, thanks for all your great work as always. So, all right, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 4-0. Item C, participation and approval in receiving Title IV Part A Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. In the Every Student Succeeds Act, there's a new flexible block grant program known as the Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant under Title IV Part A, which is recently authorized. Our district under that grant will receive $117,444 to be spent in the following three areas. Number one, providing students with a well-rounded education, including programs such as college and career counseling, STEM, arts, civics, and IB/AP. Two, supporting safe and healthy students with comprehensive school mental health, drug and violence prevention, training on trauma-informed practices, and health and physical education. And three, supporting the effective use of technology that is backed by professional development, blended learning, and educational technology devices. So we recommend that you approve participation in Title IV Part A so that we can have that money.
Thank you. Motion by Mrs. Bradford.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ortega. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 4-0. Item D, approve personnel matters. D1, approve initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. During the board meeting on January 16th, 2018, the board received and reviewed the initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa. Following the public hearing this evening, administration recommends the board approve the initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa as printed in the backup materials as a basis for negotiations. Again, administrative recommends the board approve the initial bargaining proposal from NEA Jurupa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Ortega.
Second.
Second by Ms. Chard. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote. Motion carries 4-0. D2, approve initial bargaining proposal to NEA Jurupa. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. And for all of those same reasons, administration recommends the board approve the initial bargaining proposal to NEA Jurupa.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Chard. Second by Mrs. Bradford. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 4-0. Item E, board member committee reports and comments. Start with you, Mrs. Chard.
Okay, I haven't been to any committee meetings since our last board meeting, but I do have a DAC meeting, or district advisory meeting tomorrow, and I look forward to meeting with the parents and seeing what all Mrs. Moreno's office has to information to give to the parents. I assume it's probably a little bit of everything that we had tonight, just to brief them on the budget, governor's budget, and the new update and the new website too. That's all I have as far as committees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bradford.
Like trustee Chart, I didn't have any committee meetings this time, but I did attend Riverside Community College's Gateway to College Career Exploration Day, just to see how at the next level at the community college, how their career and technical education dovetails with our programs. And I'm pleased to be affiliated with JUSD because they certainly know Roberta Pace's name and approve of our programs and our students. So it's important to make friends in the community and all work together. Right, David? Yes. From Assemblymember Cervantes' office. Also, I want to comment, when I read about the travel plan requests for out-of-the-district travel, I was so impressed at the enrichment in store for our JUSD students going to Science Camp, the World Ag Expo, Washington, D.C., whale watching, a world-class live opera performance. And it makes me think what opportunities our students have the ability to experience by the time they graduate. And I appreciate the district working to provide these for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Ms. Ortega.
And just to piggyback on that, I actually had that in my notes too, that to congratulate these teachers that are willing to take that courage and create that learning environment outside of the classroom, or make Washington D.C. a classroom, or Science Camp a classroom too. So my hat's off to those teachers who find also the time and funding to take these students out to again hands-on in that hands-on experience for them. So that I also wanted to piggyback on that. Couple of events that I will be attending with some of our colleagues will be this weekend. It's the parade, the Black History Parade with Sammy Knight, which is one of our alumni in Rubidoux High School. He was an NFL player, so we're excited to do that. I think President Garcia has done that before, have been in the parade, but some of us will be joining him, and he's always delighted to have us, so that's exciting. I talked to him over the phone, and he's just so excited. He's like, we can meet here, we can do this, bring whoever you want, the kids. So he's super excited to have us, and we'll be doing that this weekend on Saturday, I think so. And also we were invited by RCC Norco to attend their Veterans Resource Center, and we know that Sabrina Cervantes was a big initiative for that to happen, so we're invited to that. And when I opened the email, I was really proud to see one of our Rubidoux graduates. He is Ruben Aguilar, and he went to the Army right after graduation, and unfortunately, or fortunate for him of serving, came back with the Purple Heart, and he is featured in that email and other videos that they have. So that'll be another exciting event to attend and show our support of our students and the resources that they're going to be able to obtain. That many of our students have, after graduation, gone to serve in our country, and just for them to feel those that community support and those resources is really, really important. So we're excited for that too. And talked about CABE conference. They gave us the information for the CABE conference that will be in March, with all these amazing recognitions. As well, the Riverside CABE chapter was recognized the chapter of the year. So a lot of things are coming from our chapter, Riverside, the Inland Empire, that have to be highlighted. So I think that's awesome, that the work that we're doing. And we, as board members, be able to support that. So that's really, really nice. And the parade. And finally, just thank you for that new look. I just cut my hair and I got new glasses just for the new look of the district. So we are super, super excited to launch and campaign for this new logo, new mission, new purpose statement that we're very excited and pleased to support as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega.
But I forgot to mention it, so.
Okay. Yeah, real quick, Mrs. Chard was going to mention this, I guess. There's at Norco College on Friday, there's a Center for Student Success room. I know I read this, yeah, why don't you do it, Mrs. Chard?
Okay. Assemblyman Sabrina Cervantes is hosting at the this Assembly Select Committee on Career Technical Education and Building a 21st Century Workforce, Pathways to Employment, Identifying the Nexus Between Education, Career Readiness, and Workforce Development. And I plan on attending this, and I think my colleagues are planning on attending it too, to hear what they have to say, because this is something that is going to help us in the future, as well as our students, because in her letter she also states that studies show that California will face a shortage of skilled workers by 2025, and I don't think they're going to if we keep up the way we're going, because we're really working hard to get a new workforce out there through our technical, through Jurupa Valley and Nueva Vista and all of our new programs, our Rubido and Patriot programs. And that'll leave 1 million jobs vacant. So it's something that I'd like to hear what they have to say on this and what how they're going to bridge the gap between the employee and the workforce. So if anyone is interested, it's at Norco College Center for Student Success, room 217, this Friday, February 9th, from 2 to 3:30 p.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Chard. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make it, but I'm glad to hear that we do have some members going. And I also wanted to thank Ms. Cervantes for her work in that area. It kind of, as Mrs. Bradford mentioned, our programs here at Jurupa, we're going to dovetail right into that. So please make sure, David, you thank her. And also, I think the teacher credentialing for military spouses is another thing that she highlighted on Saturday, so we appreciate that as well. So we have Science Fair, that'll be Friday, and the Black History Parade. I'm looking forward to those two events. I also had an opportunity this past Friday to visit Mission Bell Elementary for their Valentine's for Vets. They hosted that program that Mr. Mark Takano, our congressman, puts on every year. So I'm glad to be a part of that every year. And I visited kids anywhere from preschool, kindergarten, all the way up to 6th grade. So it's a great day for me every year, and the veterans are going to be happy to receive those Valentines. So thanks to everyone for all the great work. Any final comments, Mr. Duchan?
Yeah, actually, I do have a couple tonight. I want to thank Dr. Hanson and the board for your support of our kind of new look. Our goal wasn't to make us look good. It was to make what we do good and well. Sorry for the bad word there, but to make what is good in the district stand out. I see it every time I walk through a school, through classes. I see it through student performances, and I think this will help. And the message, Learning Without Limits, really takes into account the fact that one of the things that we try more to do than about anything else is create a level playing field and opportunity for the 80% of our students who come from poverty, who are English language learners, and who are foster students who face obstacles but still have no limits. So that's one of the messages we want to continually pass on. And lastly, on a sad note, as staff pass away sometimes, some of them touch you more personally than others. I taught with Ms. Greeley way back when, and I know no teacher that loved her students any more than Ms. Greeley. One of my sons had Ms. Strong. She was not quite a conventional teacher. She had a rapport with students that was interesting, but he loved her. He learned a lot of math and is now an engineer, so it was with sadness to hear about both of their passings. So
thank you, Mr. Duchan. And I did want to touch on Mrs. Greeley taught two of my kids, especially my daughter, and brought her out of Rochelle, and she taught there I think 35 years before she retired. So She touched a lot of lives, and we're going to miss her. And that's it. Meeting adjourned.